Okay, mate. Going live. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and whatever you want to call yourself. We are back with the news. Nomad has found things he wants to talk about. I think he's going to say absolutely calm because he's such a wallflower and never ever loses his temper. Nomad, would you like to give your opinion on things?
I'm always going to give my opinion on things, whether people want me to give my opinions or not. And
Excellent.
Jensen, who called me a traitor again today,
You are.
wished me a happy Traitors Day.
Yes. And just so it's been said, happy Traitors Day to all of you Americans. You're all traitors and scum, but we forgive you eventually. Maybe. Okay, probably not, but
Yeah, well, think about it. We could have sided with other people. By the way,
you
you
sided with
call
the
us a traitor.
French.
You guys sided
Mm-hmm.
with the French too. In fact, it's when you guys sided with the French and then you drag us into the fight
No,
twice.
we use the French. There's a difference.
Let's get started on our news, shall we?
So,
SCOTUS rules states can prosecute non-Native Americans on indigenous lands. The U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday ruled states can prosecute non-Native Americans who commit crimes on against Native Americans within indigenous reservations. Why does this matter? According to Axios, the opinion could redo the court system not just in Oklahoma but in all 50 states, and it highlights the precarious natures of indigenous sovereignty in the U.S. The federal government and the state have concurrent jurisdiction to prosecute crimes committed by non-Indians against Indians in Indian Territory, according to a 5-4 opinion written by Justice Kavanaugh. To begin with, the Constitution allows state to exercise jurisdiction in Indian country. Indian country is part of the state and not separate from the state, Kavanaugh wrote. Okay, now, there's a lot of people that have the misconception that the Indian reservations, all right, are sovereign. Oh, well, the tribe is sovereign. Well, the tribe can be as sovereign as it wants, all right, but you're not talking about the tribe. You're talking about land, okay? And this has always been
mm-hmm.
a point of contention, all right? And it is an important distinction, okay? If you sit up there and say that Native Americans have sovereignty and they have sovereignty on their land, okay, then you have to sit up there and say at that point they're not part of a state, okay? So you can't
Yep.
have an Indian reservation in, for example, the state of Arizona. Like the Hopi Reservation can't be part of the state of Arizona. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the fact is that they are. All right. So, there's been rules that they've gone in the past where they said, okay, we're going to give certain autonomy to the Indian reservations. But the
Mm-hmm.
question then becomes, okay, what are you dealing when you're not dealing with a Native American? What are you dealing with? All right. In this case, it's somebody else that wasn't a Native American committing a crime on Native American soil, right, in their own quote unquote territory, right? This has to be this can't continue the way it's going, right? You can't sit up there and say that a reservation is part of a state, but not part of a state when it comes to adjudication. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So in order to put a stop to that, that's where this case came into. Now, personally, if you want to say that Indian reservations are not part of states and that states have no authority at all on the Indian reservations, and to be honest, I'm all for that.
Okay.
I am all for the Indians actually having perfect sovereignty, because it'll fix problems in this state. I'll tell you that right now. By you removing the Indians from voting for state legislatures in the state of Arizona, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the state of Arizona where it'll be effective. Where it'll be affected.
Something from Sean. US is breaking treaties again. I mean, it's almost like white men speak with forked tongue. I shouldn't be saying that, should I?
The idea that the Indian or breaking treaties and that the idea that they're breaking treaties is overstated. It's not inaccurate necessarily, but it's overstated. Okay. It's like Indians break, not like the Indians never broke treaties, right?
Oh, no, they didn't. You know that the Indians were nothing but perfect, loving people that just sat around all day going and you know it.
So, in this case, the problem was always been, all right, what jurisdictions do Native Americans have versus what the states have over the Native American territories within their state? Okay? The rules that they tried to apply, right? It's not like I don't understand it, but then the Indian reservations can't be part of the state territory. Okay. So this has to be a decision. This has to be something to sit up there and say, hey, this is not this. But at that point in time, then you're going to have to determine whether or not is it part of the state or not. Or do these reservations exist within the state confines or not? Okay. So if they're not part of the state confines, what are these areas? Well, they're territories.
Yeah.
They become U.S. territories, and they would have to be admitted, right, for representation into the United States by Congress, creating them as sovereign. They are a sovereign state. If they are a sovereign state, then they need to be a state unto themselves. So the Hopi Reservation would be the Hopi state.
Yeah.
All right. The Cherokee Reservation wouldn't be a Cherokee Reservation or a Choctaw Reservation. It would be a Choctaw or Cherokee state.
Yeah.
And they could set their own rules and their own state rules and their own state governance, right? That's really, to be honest, the best way to fix this. But of course, we didn't put it that way, so you end up with these ridiculous court cases that will go on forever and ever.
Of course. But I've got to say one thing. At least they're not going Trail of Tears 2. Okay? Just saying.
Trail of Tears is way overstated, and it's another overstated thing.
I know.
It's not saying it didn't happen. They're not saying it wasn't disgraceful, but it's very few people understand it, right, within the context of when it happened and what happened, okay? And they act like there was no agent, that the Indians had no agency, which is just nonsense. Let's go overseas for a bit.
Yeah.
UK climate activists glue hands to Vincent van Gogh painting at London Museum. A pair of British climate activists glued their hands to the frame of Vincent van Gogh painting at a London gallery Thursday to protest the government's climate policies. The duo, Lewis how do you say that name? McKechnie, all right, and Emily Brocklebank, all right, are supporters of the activist group Just Stop Oil, which engages in publicity stunts to bring the public's attention to climate change. I'm just going to say Lewis and Emily, all right, glued themselves to the Van Gogh's 1989 or 1889 painting Peach Trees in Blossom, which hangs in the Courtauld Gallery at the Somerset House in London. In a statement released on Just Oil's website, Lewis called on the art world to be more proactive about fighting climate change. Directors of art
Suggestion.
institutions should be calling on the government to stop all oil and gas projects immediately, he said. We are either in resistance or we are complicit.
I have a suggestion for their names, especially based on my suggestion that will become up very soon. Just call them Lefty and Righty. You look, that's actually what they've superglued their hands. Yeah, literally, Lefty and Righty. It fits nicely.
They take the chainsaw out and just...
Now, I'm going to give my opinion on this because, hey, I'm allowed to. Chop these people's hands off at the wrist while they're standing there. Okay? It's not like Vincent has a problem with bits of the body being chopped off. He's kind of rather well known. Look, Matt is making the same suggestions. And actually, so is Sean. I mean, we're all okay with the concept.
You know, Vincent decided to make a statement with his body, you know, by mailing body parts. I guess you could do something similar here.
And being serious now, all just aside, if you're part of this stop oil now thing, and you hear about people who superglued their hands and then had them chopped off, and then were dragged away and arrested, you're going to really think twice about doing something as dumb as that with your own hands now, aren't you? Let's be honest. Okay, it's just, maybe not. And Matt, no, use a chainsaw, just don't turn it on. It hurts so much more that way.
A piece of art receives this protection and state concern whilst people in Ethiopia, Somalia, India, Pakistan, and the United States, Australia, to name a few, who are suffering from climate change now, get ignored and left, the group wrote. What's more important, this painting or a future? Okay, well, the painting's important. The future's important. But Lewis and Emily, you're not. All right? Yeah. And what's more is it's funny how you sit up there and mention Ethiopia. You mention Somalia. You mention India and Pakistan. Huh? Mm-hmm. You mention these groups. Where's China on that list? Mm-hmm. Where's Russia on this list? You know some people who are going, go, climate change, go. You know people who are saying that? There's a lot of people in Greenland that are like, go.
Yeah.
All right? I know a number of Russians in Siberia that are like, you know what? Winter sucks. All right?
Carl's come up with a brilliant idea. In order to prevent global warming, I propose we convert environmentalists into universal fuel pellets power plants. I'm sure the brain trusts down at the chemical can work all this out. You know what? I agree with him. I am absolutely okay.
Show me some real concern. Fly to China to protest. Show me you're really willing to put it out there. You climate activists, go do this in a Chinese theater somewhere, in China. Go do this in a museum in China. All right? When I see you doing that, I'll know you're serious.
Yeah.
Right now, all you are is a non-serious annoyance. And if you become enough of an annoyance, we will remove you from being an annoyance. That's eventually what's going to happen to these fools. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they don't have the right to protest. This is not a protest, right? This is harm. They are intentionally harming other things. Cause you listen to my world. Well, go to who's the number one producer of carbon dioxide in the world, China, and go protest. Show me that you really care. Don't come back with all this faux bullshit. We gotta save the world. You got us scared of us saving the whole world. Maybe you shouldn't have been trying to scare people, and maybe these people need to grow the hell up. I'm serious about
Yep.
this. You want to do something? Let's see you put your lives on the line. If it's so important to you, if it's so devastating to you, put your life on the really put your life on the line. Go over to China and fight the man. Because if you don't, you're not serious. Meanwhile,
For a random YouTuber, leave these idiots stuck to a picture while a couple wait in front of them and show them green oil.
well,
You know, I like your plan, sir. I like your plan. Just saying.
personally, right, when they're doing that, eventually someone's going to say, you know what, we've had enough of you. You know, you're harming other people here and you're really being an annoyance. Well, I'm going to annoy you for a while now, right? And just start kicking the holy shit out of them. These people
I'm
are
okay with
dangerous
this.
because they're lunatics and they're delusional.
Yeah.
Personally, I would ship them to China. Here you go. In fact, you could also ship them to India and see how long it lasts there. Tell India is quickly becoming the second biggest polluter in the world. Here you go. Go stop their pollution while you're at it. Because what really frosts me about these people, before I even get into this, what really frosts me about these people, Jensen, is they're doing all this other things. Have they ever frickin' actually proposed something that would actually work? None of their proposals will ever work. Period. So why should I listen to a friggin' thing morons like you say when you have yet to prove that any of your supposed solutions work? But you know what will work? Nuclear power. Nuclear power is a solution to what you're talking about. Are you screaming about increasing nuclear power through the country? No? Then shut the hell up. Because that's the only solution that we have. Back to this.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get angry today. Guess that went out the window.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. will face high gas prices as long as it takes, Biden says. Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
All right. U.S. President Joe Biden said Americans will have to stomach high gas prices as long as it takes to beat back Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. Really? As long as it takes, so Russia cannot, in fact, defeat Ukraine and move beyond the Ukraine, Biden told reporters on Thursday in Madrid in response to a question about how long high gas prices might persist. His comments echo those of the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, all right, his closest geopolitical ally and one who is facing similar pressures back home about the cost of living crises. What a surprise. The national average on gasoline price hit a record this month, above $5 a gallon, even after Biden ordered a historic release from the U.S. reserves earlier this year. Prices at the pump have been a main driver of inflation that have been, they're not, they've been a main. They are not the main, but they are a main driver of inflation, which has been a major political headache for the Biden administration. Of course, because it raises the prices of all energy in the world. The cost of you flipping a light switch on has now dramatically increased because no one's using nuclear power.
Yep.
All right. Because you lefty loons bitched about that and got it shut down before it could become an industry. I mean a major, major industry. Before it could supplant all of this. I'll be honest with you. Our grids, the worldwide grids, should be running on nuclear power right now and could have been, except for you frickin' climate loons.
Yep.
And no, the world wouldn't be irradiated, all right? The world would be no worse off, all right? Could there be more nuclear accidents? Yes. Would they be serious? Yes. Would they have already been taken care of? Yes. Would they have already had better nuclear power and better technology? Yes. All that's yes. All of that was stopped because of you lefty loons. And the reason for it is they get the lefty loons like this jackass, Lewis and Emily, like these two pair of frickin' Mensa candidates, and they convince them, you're going to do this for the world, and they don't tell them what their real agenda is. Because the real agenda, all right, has nothing to do with that. The real agenda is giving them permanent power.
Yeah.
And they'll use it however they damn well feel like. I would love for somebody to ask Emily and good old Louie there, how did you get there? Did you walk from wherever you were? Seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or did you take a train? Did you take something that took energy? My guess is you took energy. You used oil to get there. So you could make your little protest. And don't come back, why use solar power? Oh really? How did you make those solar cells? Was it a solar plant that made the solar cells? Because I don't think it was. I don't think it was.
Okay. I thought they used magic.
Meanwhile, the European summer of love continues.
Involved.
Prepare for stay-at-home summer. Warnings that school holiday getaways everywhere in Europe will be thrown into chaos as the UK, Spain, France, Italy, and Germany suffer from a perfect storm of airport anarchy, strikes, and post-COVID worker shortages. British holidaymakers are facing a summer of travel chaos in Europe as countries across the continent grapple with the perfect storm of airport mayhem, mass strikes over wage-busting inflation, and crippling post-COVID staffing shortages. Flyers grappling with cancellations and long luggage or lost luggage at Britain's biggest airports are bracing themselves for strikes among British Airways staff at London's Heathrow Airport, in the next 2 months. Oh, joy! We lost your bags. Now, bitch, just sit there because we're not flying you anywhere either. Staff at the Charles de Gaulle in Paris, France's biggest airport, and Orly, are plotting strike action this weekend to disrupt or in a dispute rather, over pay and working conditions. France's Civil Aviation Authority said 17% of scheduled flights out of Charles de Gaulle and Orly are canceled between 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. today, with more expected tomorrow when the CGD staff walked out on June 9th. A staggering 25% of the flights were scrapped. These governments were the ones that said that if you don't get the shots, you're going to get fired, and a lot of people left. And now these people think that they can fix their inflation by getting their stuff more expensive, and that someone else can pay the price. We're having this problem, by the way, in the United States too, because the Delta Airlines, which is runs. The main hub is Atlanta, which is one of the biggest airports in America. All right. Yeah. They went on strike. And they're out there protesting on a picket line. And personally, if I was in charge of an airline, I would be calling up right now all the all the people that they fired. Want to work for me? Because I would bury frickin' Delta.
Yeah.
The idea that somehow pilots are complaining because, inflation's hit us hard. It's hit everybody hard. Let's be perfectly frank here. Who's it hurt the hardest? You guys that are making literally $250,000 a year? You guys that are in six-figure salaries, or the guy that's barely making ends meet, all right, at $20,000 or $30,000 a year? Who's it hurting more?
Mm-hmm.
I agree. These prices and inflation are out of control, right? But you know what? Your airline and your company are ones that wanted to do this. You guys all supported these Democrat politicians, and these Democrats drove it into the ground. And now you're bitching, well, I'm going to go on strike until I get my pay. Okay? Screw you.
Yep.
Screw you. I'll tell you what, it's a good thing, that God will never allow me to have the money, right, to be in charge of people like you. Because you'd all be out of a job. Every freaking swinging one of you. Every friggin' one of you.
Yeah. Be fun though, wouldn't it?
Look,
if you did have that
unions
sort
are
of power.
important when they're complaining about the work environment of other people. And don't get me wrong, there are problems with the work environment in these airlines. I'll be the first person to admit that. But the biggest problem they have isn't the working environment. The biggest problem they have is themselves, is the unions. The unions are the biggest problem. And everybody knows it. And you pilots, you're going to get what you wish for pretty doggone soon. You know why? Because it's a matter of time before, it is a matter of time before the FAA allows for the flights to be taking place strictly computerized. Nobody in the pilot seat. It's a matter of time.
I want to say something to you, mate, from a random YouTuber. Went to kitchen to make coffee and could still hear Nomad on mute. That's saying something. That really is. I don't know what he's trying to suggest there, but just, maybe take a breath, relax. It's not that bad. I'm joking.
If we're going to talk about airlines, I guess we should be talking about this as well. American Airlines passenger admits to jumping on beverage cart trying to strip. A Washington state man is facing up to 20 years in prison after he admitted to jumping over a beverage cart and trying to take his clothes off aboard an American Airlines flight, which had to be diverted. Adam Alexander Williams, 33, of Auburn, Washington, pled guilty Thursday to interference with flight members and attendants more than 5 months after causing a flight from Seattle to Charlotte, North Carolina, to land in Billings, Montana. Williams was sentenced at a later date, or will be sentenced at a later date. In addition to prison time, he also faces $25,000 in fine and 3 years of supervised release. How about just release him out of the airplane?
I like that plan.
At 60,000 feet.
I still like that plan.
Without a parachute.
You mean you was going to... Well, I suppose you could always charge him for the parachute and then lie. What's he going to do, complain?
You could just give it to him. Here you go. Hang on to this and then kick it out. Might want to think about putting that on before you hit the ground. By the way, we're 60,000 feet in the air. It's going to be kind of hard to breathe for a while. Don't worry, it'll get better when you get closer to the ground.
Fair point. Mm-hmm.
At what point, all right, according to court documents, he was traveling to North Carolina on January 9th. See, it was in the middle of winter, too. You know what? Kicking him off the plane, just on the tarmac, in Billings, Montana on January 9th would have been a solution. You could just kick him out of the plane, land the plane, kick him out, and then take off.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even need to really call security.
It's not like he's going anywhere, let's be fair.
Naked running around on the tarmac in Billings, Montana on January 9th He's not going anywhere for very long. Let's put it that way.
Instant twatsicle. Right there.
All right.
Just saying.
Just putting it out here. There were other solutions that were available at the time. All right. He was traveling. All right. When his behavior turned erratic and escalated, at one point he yelled at no one in particular, "Where is Jamie Sanders?" and then jumped over the passenger's row onto the beverage cart in the aisle. As he came off the cart, he almost landed on a flight attendant and pushed her into a seat, knocking drinks and cups to the ground. He then began to run down the aisle of the aircraft. He was said to have so startled that the flight attendant, who appeared distressed and traumatized. Prosecutors said another cabin crew member managed to calm Williams down and escort him back to his seat. About 10 minutes later, Williams began to act up again and screamed an obscenity.
I'm
Flight
sorry.
attendants then
That
placed
man,
several U.S. Marines who happened to be on the flight in seats around him as a precaution.
nice. Now that man needs to be shot, and I'll tell you why.
But a short
Spilled
time
the
later,
drink.
he began screaming and taking off his clothes. At that point, the aircraft's captain turned the plane around, landing in Billings so that Williams could be removed from the plane. Because you guys were too much of a pussy whip to just let the freaking Marines handle the situation permanently.
One elbow, problem dealt with.
Yes. So when they talk about when they say that there are working environmental issues,
Mm-hmm.
they're not really wrong. All right, because I'll be honest with you, you're working on these flights, you would feel like, when somebody's coming up like that, like, what are you gonna do? Now, personally, these people should be armed with, electric cattle prods. Get in the seat.
I'm okay with that.
I'm gonna sit there and get back to the seat. Things would be so much nicer on these planes if you gave the flight attendants cattle prods.
I agree.
All right, you would have a lot less lippiness. All right.
Yeah.
And when the flight attendants when it's taking off and the pilot puts the seatbelt sign on, and the person is trying to walk down the aisle, get back to your seat or else, would mean something.
Yep.
Just pointing it out there.
I agree.
Off to New York. New York City teen accused of vicious hate crime attacks is stabbed to death. A teenager who allegedly committed 2 brutal hate crime attacks against Sikhs in New York City. Bad move. At this point, reading into the story, I was it's like, really? This is not a surprise.
Yeah.
Police announced on Friday, officers found the 19-year-old stabbed in the chest in Brooklyn with the blade used to kill him laying beside him, missing a handle. Douglas was then taken to Brookdale Hospital, where he died. Nirmal Singh, visiting New York City from India, was one of Douglas's alleged victims. Douglas was charged with breaking his nose as Singh was strolling through the Richmond Hill neighborhood in Queens. Douglas was also charged with mugging 2 other Sikh men with a friend, hitting them with wooden sticks, robbing them, punching them, and snatching turbans from their heads. This guy's friends, you might want to start snatching them up now and putting them into protective custody if you want them to remain alive.
So let's just say I would not be shocked to find some more reports of people having accidents in New York City. Let's just put it that way.
All right. You could go after Granny. You can go after, Rodriguez, right? And you probably won't get any kind of pushback. right? Not really. Yeah. The most they'll do is call the cops and expect the cops to eventually do something about you. But if you're going to do that to the Sikhs, let me put it this way. This is not a surprise. What's happened to good old Douglas here? That's not a surprise. Mate.
There is actually one group worse than the Sikhs. I know it's difficult to believe, but just imagine if he'd have picked a fight with some of the Gurkhas.
Gurkhas would have been another issue.
He would have just been skinned alive and left
now
for people to find.
I've been warning people because what's going to happen, let's be honest, they're not going to find the attacker, all right, the guy who killed him. They're not going to find out who stabbed him to death. And if they do, it'll be a number of people. But I doubt that they're going to find out anything about who dealt with this situation. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the violence is going to increase.
Yep.
And I've warned people about vigilantism taking place, and it's only a matter of time before it gets worse. And this is the start of it, folks. This was, let's be honest what this was. This was a revenge killing.
Yep.
And it's hard to sit up there and get a lot of sympathy for Douglas. All right?
Oh, I have an amusing concept for you. His mates get this absolutely genius idea and decide, let's get some of them Arab buggers because it's probably their fault. It's not like the Muslims might have a problem with this. What do you think? I think everything's going to go fine. I can't see any issues.
Yeah. Like I said, this is going to get out of control.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be vigilantism everywhere. But, you left this. Yeah. This is the world you want. Don't believe me? All you have to do is look at this. Now, from the Babylon Bee, a parody site. A supposed parody site. Dems paused January 6 hearings to call for an insurrection. Democrats have temporarily pushed pause on the January 6 hearings in order to lead an insurrection against the federal government. On January 6th, a branch of our federal government was almost overthrown because politicians used dangerous rhetoric that caused... Wait, hold on, everyone. I just got an update. Roe v. Wade has been overturned, said Representative Adam Schiff. All right. Okay, well, if all the Republicans could please sit tight, there will be a brief pause while our Democrat caucus takes to the streets demanding we overthrow a branch of the federal government. And they did that exactly. And before somebody tells me the Democrats didn't do that, just took a look at what AOC said. After closing down the presentation entitled How Trump Undermined Institutional Authority, Democrats joined to race the crowd, all right, surround the Supreme Court building. Rigged decision, shouted Elizabeth Warren. Judges must no longer be allowed to hold power. We will never abide by an illegitimate decision by an illegitimate court. And believe it or not, they said this. Their politicians said those words directly. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how these people talk about, our democracy's under attack and then do this kind of shit.
Yeah.
But if you dare stand in front of them and tell them the same thing, they're going to throw you in jail. How dare you represent a threat to all of us? This is the problem, right, with these people. This is the problem with leftists. They don't give a shit about democracy.
Nope.
You know what Stalin's comment about democracy was? It doesn't matter how many votes you get. It matters who counts the votes.
True.
And when it's only Democrat and Democrat institutions counting the votes, what a surprise that you always get the same result. And if you have a rule the Democrats don't like and they break that rule, there is literally no accountability held for them.
Yep.
You want people to believe in the sanctity of the system. Then you have to prove that the system all right, isn't corrupted, and you claiming it, and you claiming, well, do you see any corruption, doesn't fix that and answer that question. Because that's exactly a standard saying, well, how do you know he didn't count the ballots correctly? Well, we'd like to see the ballots. You're just attacking us.
Yep.
That was the response, folks. There's no reason for you to see the ballots. There's no reason for you to believe that there was a problem here. Doesn't matter whether or not you agree with their reasoning or not. The fact is they believe that there was a problem. They want to see the ballots. But you guys kept throwing everything in the way. All I did was further the belief that there was a problem here.
Yep.
I blame Jensen for all this, by the way. Just
Well,
letting you all know.
Well, me, I didn't do nothing.
Yeah. We saw that. We heard that earlier, didn't we, Jensen?
Uh-huh. Do nothing. I'm a good boy. Yeah, what?
U.S. test of new hypersonic missile fails amid China and Russian pressure. With Russia and China and North Korea developing their own hypersonic missile capabilities. What's North Korea's hypersonic missile going to be?
Elastic band.
I'm just putting it out there, folks. All right. With some being capable of carrying nuclear warheads. All right, now stop right here, folks. The idea of hypersonic missiles. You realize that a ballistic missile, all right, like an ICBM, that when it comes in, it's hypersonic. Okay? So, you understand this, right? Test flight of the U.S. hypersonic missile system in Hawaii, named Conventional Prompt Strike, failed, mostly due to a problem that took place after ignition, the U.S. Department of Defense said in a statement. Excuse me. An anomaly occurred following ignition of the test asset, Pentagon spokesman Navy Lieutenant Commander Tim Gorman said. The department remains confident that it is on track to field offensive and defensive hypersonic capabilities on target dates beginning in the early 2020s. The program officials have initiated a review to determine the cause inform of future tests, while the department was unable to collect data on the entirety of the planned flight profile. The information gathered from this event will provide vital insights. The recent failure marks the second unsuccessful test flight of the prototype weapon. In October 2021, a booster malfunction which prevented the missile from leaving the launch pad rendered the weapon system's first test flight a failure as well. In other words, it didn't go. We tried to launch and it said no.
Don't wanna.
The Chinese military believes hypersonic weapons will change the nature of battle and is investing heavily to advance their capabilities. Okay, folks, a hypersonic missile, the cost of a hypersonic missile is ridiculous. Okay? It's close to the cost of a F-22 Raptor. And a Raptor is reusable. Okay? So, and that's the cost of the missile. I'm not talking about the cost of the program. I'm talking about the cost of the missile itself. You can send up 20, conventional cruise missiles for the cost of a single, with their projected cost. Let me rephrase this. The projected cost of a single hypersonic missile. All right. The idea that the United States desperately needs a hypersonic platform, no. Now, using it as a defensive system, okay.
Dude, from random YouTuber, SpaceX can land a rocket. The US military can't even get them off the ground. Best learn Mandarin now. He's not wrong.
Yeah, but let's be perfectly honest. It's not like our government hasn't lied to us in the past about weapon systems that supposedly don't work but actually do.
True.
Just put it out.
3D chess.
All right, just put it out there. For those who don't know, okay, when the United States broke the sound barrier, we kept it secret. Believe it or not, we kept it secret for years. Years. We kept manned flights breaking the sound barrier, Chuck Yeager's flight. We kept it secret for almost 2 years. And the only reason they sit up there and told the world was because the Russians came back and said, "Oh, we've done it. We're the first." And they had to put the Russians down, so they said, "No, you weren't. Back down.
Yeah.
Get back in your hole."
So, you might want to take note of what Matt Barkley has said. Who cares about missiles? What's really important is we have a diverse military. I can't sleep at night knowing there's no black, trans-disabled, furry generals. He has a point.
Who do you think we're putting on the missiles?
Oh my god, automatically intelligent missiles. I like it.
But you're not wrong, Matt. That is the diversity bullshit is just that. All right. We're getting close to the end here, folks. Woman faces felonies over waste attack. Florida woman, but is behind bars. Surprise, it's Florida. All right, is behind bars after striking a home health care nurse with a handheld urinal. All right, a felony battery that left the victim soaked in bodily waste. Investigators said Beth Redden, 60, got into a confrontation Monday afternoon with her 83-year-old male roommate in their residence at Teakwood Village Mobile Home Park in Largo, a Tampa suburb. Remember what I said about Tampa? It seems like Tampa has become a hotspot of this shit.
Oh, yeah.
Redden, according to an arrest affidavit, threw a metal cane and soda cans at Theodore Hamilton, who was struck but not injured. Redden tossed the items while nurse Joyce Lawrence was inside the home. When Lawrence sought to intervene, she was hit multiple times in the stomach region by Redden, who had used the surname Monami. I'm not even sure how to say it. Monami? All right. As Lawrence sought to disengage, Redden was in arm's reach of a full plastic handheld urinal, which was filled with bodily fluids of Theodore Hamilton. Redden allegedly threw the urinal at Lawrence, who was hit with the receptacle, and the contents flew out and soaked Lawrence, as well as the interior of the residence. Lawrence was covered with wet liquid when the police arrived. Redden, seen above, was arrested on a pair of felony counts for allegedly battering victims aged 65 and older. Locked up in lieu of $5,000 bond, Redden pled not guilty to the charges. All right, her rap sheet includes convictions for drunken driving, trespassing, and making a false report to law enforcement.
Random YouTuber. That's what happens when you get old people to watch WWE. He's not wrong. I heard Tombstone thought that'd be a good idea.
This woman doesn't need to be in jail. This woman needs to be in a psych ward. Okay?
Not as much as the next one.
Let's be honest. I mean, this woman needs to be in a psych ward. I'm not saying what she did was right, obviously. All right? She's out of control. She needs mental health. This is someone that's lost their mind. Right? And believe it or not, maybe her partner, her really elderly partner, probably doesn't even know who he is anymore. Right? May have driven her over the edge. All right, I can understand that she got upset with it because he's just being a dingleberry. All right.
Yeah.
You know, because you begin to lose your mental faculties when you get older, folks. Unfortunately, that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
I feel for all of them. All right, especially the nurse who was just there going, "Here, I'm just here to help, but I need to intervene. You need to stop doing this, man." Telling an old woman who doesn't give a shit anything.
Yeah.
Didn't you ever talk to your grandma? Hadn't you ever learned what grandmas are like? Grandmas are wonderful. They treat you like with candy and cake. But when they're mad, you can't tell them shit. Because
That's
their
true.
attitude is, what are you going to do to me? Put me in jail? Go ahead. I'm not living long anyway.
Yeah.
They just don't care. Grandpas aren't any better. They really aren't. This isn't about a grandpa, though. This one is completely different. A woman found naked from the waist down told Pennsylvania police that snakes had eaten her pants. Responding last Thursday afternoon to multiple 911 calls about a half-dressed woman walking in the middle of a road 25 miles from Philadelphia, cops found Gloria Harple, 35, naked from the waist down and rambling. Harple, who police suspected of narcotics use, that makes sense, right? Initially said that she had put her pants in a storm drain, but before contending that snakes had eaten them. Well, she may have done both. She may have put them in the storm drain so the snakes could eat them. Pictured at the right, Harple, reportedly sweating profusely and making nonsensical outbursts, was arrested for indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and public drunkenness. She was booked in a Montgomery County jail for misdemeanor counts. A probable cause affidavit does not provide a further description of the purported trouser snakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Let's be honest, this is someone who's probably drug-addled.
Meth is a hell of a drug. Just saying.
Drunk and drug-addled. Yeah, I mean, it's... You need to take her to a dry-out place and confine her for a place for drug abuse. I think people that get arrested for drug abuse, you should be given one chance. And whether it's alcohol, tobacco, whatever it is, I don't really care. If you get convicted of drug abuse, all right, your first conviction, we won't throw you into the rehabilitation facility.
Yeah.
Think of it as Nomads Rehabilitation Facility for drug addicts. Okay? You get one shot. You won't go to the facility over one shot. The facility, for those who don't understand, will be run like boot camp.
Oh, yes.
Right? Trust me, after going through boot camp with the rest of your little whacked out drug abuse freaking friends, you won't want to come back. Maybe you'll start acting right. Just putting it there. Because you have boot camp 1, and then you have boot camp 2. For the advanced hard cases that decided to come back. Just to get you clean, and you will be clean, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
And the first thing that should happen when they walk in there is, and your human rights are being stripped from you. Just get that out of the way. It just deals with all of their lawyer problems. You have no more human rights.
Well,
Now then.
you've been sold. You've been sold to the facility.
Yeah.
By the way, you would also run into the ones that aren't doing drugs. They're called environmentalists. They'll be there too, helping
they're
to
the ones who
generate
think-
electricity on a personal level.
Yep. They're the ones with only one left or one right hand. Or at least that's my suggestion.
Still pulling ore. Still
It's
walking
true.
treadmill.
Oh, yeah.
Final story of the day, folks. Louisiana kangaroo released from enclosure by a parrot. Louisiana
not
Town
joking.
said that the marsupial was released from his enclosure by a mischievous parrot. The kangaroo, named Baxter, was caught on camera wandering around the Zachary on Wednesday, and local police said that the animal was safely captured and returned to its home on Thursday morning. Baxter's owners run a nonprofit called Bird Recovery International, which specializes in returning exotic wild birds to their natural habitat, they said. Baxter shares his home with more than a dozen parrots, and one of the birds, named Thor, recently learned how to open the lock to the kangaroo's enclosure. Kangaroos are considered exotic animals under Louisiana law. Yeah, because there's not too many kangaroos running around North America. And are illegal to be kept as pets. It's unclear if Baxter's owners, who formerly owned a zoo, have an exemption for the animal due to their wildlife-based nonprofit. Now, first of all, if you introduced kangaroos to the North American continent, I'm not sure they would survive. Okay? They might. I really don't know anything about them. But that's also because I don't know much about the total environment of Australia. To me, it's always been, seems to me that Australia doesn't really get that cold. Is that correct?
Generally, no, that is true. The only cold you get there is death after you've been bitten by something. Who knows what it was that bit you, but, you know, cold of death is your friend.
But I don't.
By the way,
I mean, how many? Does it snow over most of the subcontinent or not?
No.
Right.
No, they have basically got the middle bit the sort of heat that even you are going to go, God damn, that's hot. And then they've got the coast that just has, you know, firestorms. So how hot do you think that gets?
Well, I mean, I understand that. I was just always wondering whether or not there was. I know they have to have large mountains, and on the mountains you're going to have snow, right? Which that's understandable, but I don't think kangaroos live anywhere near there, and I'm not sure if kangaroos, because like I said, even here in Tucson, while it's mostly hot, and it is hot today, for example, right? It'll be in the triple digits today. In fact, it's in the triple digits right now. In the wintertime, it gets freaking cold.
Yeah.
And you do get days that are freezing, and every 3 to 4 years it does snow. Now I don't know if kangaroos could live through that. Now I live in a desert in the United States. If you go further north, okay, you're gonna get snow. For example, Flagstaff, they have ski resorts around Flagstaff. For those people who don't know, all right. So they get a lot of snow. They get quite a bit. All right. So I'm not sure that these things maybe could wander around Louisiana. Because I don't think Louisiana gets much snow, but I'm not sure that these things would survive. Now, like I said, they don't get snow, but in Louisiana, you got to. I'm not sure that they would survive being a prey species. Let's be honest.
You know? No, I just want to respond to Goatman. Actually, kangaroo meat is actually really greasy, so it is actually tasty. Yes, I have. And I actually would suggest you give it a go. It's actually not that bad. Like I say, though, it can be quite greasy.
Is it white or is it dark? Is it light or dark?
It actually it's about it's a little bit darker than a duck, but I wouldn't actually define it as full red meat by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay, so it's kind of more of a darker kind of a. I would have thought it would have been a
Hmm.
lighter type of a meat to be honest. Um,
Yeah.
but I've never had kangaroo. Um,
Oh, I have.
I've had a lot of other things,
Hmm.
but not kangaroo. All right.
Yeah.
I've had ostrich.
I haven't. Any good?
I mean, it's like most birds, to be honest.
Okay.
It
Fair
tastes like
point.
most birds. It's not bad. It's not. It's obviously preparation was just plain. All right, that I had it. I'm sure that as more people get into ostrich meat, right, that they learn to prepare it differently, right, and get more types of dishes out. Um, that's one of the advantages. I've had buffalo or American bison.
Yeah.
Right. It's very. To be honest, it's like most of the deer and it doesn't taste like deer per se, but it's similar, right? And kind of like a deer taste.
Yeah. I can't help but look at an ostrich and just think KFC. Just saying.
I think for the most part, the areas of an ostrich that are really edible, right, are obviously the legs, which that has the majority of the meat, to be honest, and
Yeah.
the obviously the breast,
Yeah.
right. I mean, to me, an ostrich is an ugly bird. It's an absolutely hideous looking bird.
Not when it's covered in crispy coating. Just saying.
I mean, a little a little bit of bread coating on there, make it nice and crispy, and sauce it right on up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm cool with this.
Right. Ostrich feathers are I like the feathers themselves, right? I mean, obviously they're
Okay.
big, but they're also they're a pretty feather.
Are they soft?
Yeah, they are.
Well, okay, because at the end of the day, you got basically soft feathers and hard feathers, and
Yeah, they're fairly
hard
soft.
feathers are not good for pillows. Let's put it that way.
No, well, you would have to get the ones off the chest, not the ones from
Yeah.
the wings. But yeah, I mean, but ostrich feathers are fairly soft. The chicken feathers can be soft too, right? But to be honest, if you get the ones
Yeah.
off the chest,
Yeah.
those can be soft as well, right? So
Yeah.
the now other types of meat that I've had or haven't had, I've had gator. I've had alligator before. Alligator
Yeah.
is a lighter meat, to be honest. It's
Yeah.
not
I hear it's got a fishy taste. Is it true?
kinda, but to be honest, it doesn't. It's not a strong tasting meat. It just isn't strong.
Okay.
Okay, like cattle have a nice strong taste to them, right?
Oh yeah.
Gators don't. It just it's kind of like snake. I've had snake too,
Yeah.
right? And it's people say it tastes like chicken. Well, the reason they say it tastes like chicken is chicken doesn't have a very strong taste, and so these things don't have strong taste either. Right? So the fishy taste that they talk about, I guess you got to be a connoisseur because I don't really like fish, and I actually like gator. Right? I didn't think it had much of a fishy taste really to it.
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, it doesn't have much taste. It's like
Yeah.
escargot. It doesn't have it. The meat itself has very little taste, right? And
Yeah. There is one problem with escargot. It literally looks like you've blown your nose in a bowl.
it
It does, doesn't it? Come on.
the meat is just very chewy. It kind of does. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
Batman has a question for you. He wants to know what Triceratops tastes like.
That's been a while. All right. That's been a while. But that's everything I got
Yeah.
for right now. So I'm going to have to end
Oh,
it here. All right. I'll let
okay.
you end this for me, Jensen.
Absolutely no problem. Well, thank you very much for the show, Nomad. That was highly entertaining. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and whatever else you want to call yourself, for coming out. Sorry, Batman. Would love to have had you on, but you turned up right at the very end, mate. Maybe next time, mate. Happy 4th of July. Happy Traitors' Day to all of you. Have a nice time. Bye-bye, everyone.